Have you ever felt lonely after going through a narcissistic toxic relationship? Or ever said to yourself that I'm scared I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life? Well, in this video, we're going to talk about the ways to overcome that loneliness feeling. But first, before we get started, go ahead and just hit that subscribe button below and make sure you check that little bell to get notified when any of the other videos that I have coming out every single week. But let's jump into this. I hear this all of the time. So many of the women that I work with will tell me that they are lonely, that they feel like they will never find somebody else to love them. And the one thing that I say right away is that the person you were just with didn't love you either. So sometimes we compare what we were just in, this narcissistic toxic relationship, to this image of this person that we want to be with for the rest of our lives, and we feel like we're never going to get them. So what we were in was better than having nothing. And that's absolutely not the truth. What happens after you break up, a divorce, getting out of that toxic relationship, is what is called, that I call, an uncomfortable feeling. And my daughter always comes in and she'll say, "Mom, I miss Daddy." But I finally actually got to the root of the issue. And it wasn't that she really missed her father. It was that she was feeling uncomfortable. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know how to be in the house without him. So once we identified that it was an uncomfortable feeling, we detach the emotion to it. So when you're sitting here and you feel lonely and you want this narcissistic person back that treated you like such crap, right? Put you down and all of that stuff, it's because we're uncomfortable. Now let's talk about why we're uncomfortable. Let's talk about that relationship. Let's talk about that narcissistic, toxic relationship where they put you down all the time. They gaslighted you, which means that they made you think you were crazy. They would cheat on you and then tell you're the crazy one, that, he's got girls or in his phone and he's staying out late, but you're the crazy one because you're accusing him of cheating. That's the gaslighting. They don't stand up for you. They don't do what they're supposed to do. So you're in this relationship that really brings down your self-worth and your self-trust. And now all of a sudden, this relationship that has shook you up, worn you down, and gotten you to this place of low self-worth and self-love is now gone. Now think about this. You have been in that relationship for however long it was, and now you've been used to all of this behavior. You've been used to the ups and the downs, right? In a narcissistic toxic relationship, you're going to have those ups and those downs. When he knows he got caught, he's going to do something good, right? When he wants to get something from you, he's going to do something good. So there's going to be the good days and the bad days. Now, all relationships have those. However, in the toxic relationships, there's more bad than good. And yet when we get that little bitty piece of, oh my gosh, okay, he loves me again, we cling to it. We cling to it, cling to it, cling to it. And then what happens is we lose them. We lose that rockiness. And we're so used to that roller coaster ride of the ups and the downs and feeling bad about ourselves, but then getting a little glimpse of light. And we're used to this behavior. Okay, this is our habits. This is the pattern that we have been subjected to for however long you were in this relationship. And now all of a sudden it ends. And as soon as we think that we're single again, we start to feel that loneliness feeling. But when I question you on that, because with the loneliness feeling, why do we feel so lonely? Because we're looking for that companion. We're looking for that behavior. We're looking for that pattern that we're used to. Think about it this way. If you were to work 60 hours a week for 2 months, and then at the end of 2 months, because I did this, I came from the accounting world, I would work, actually it was for 4 months, but I would work 60 to 80 hours for 4 months straight. When May came, it was like, wait a minute, I have nothing to do. And you get this feeling of like anxiousness. That's when the anxiety sits in. You feel like you're missing something. You feel like you don't have something. You feel like something's wrong. And that's what happens after a toxic relationship as well. Because the adrenaline is always going. Do I hate him? Do I love him? Do I hate him? Do I love him? And now all of a sudden it's gone. And you have this feeling inside of you, and it's really friggin' uncomfortable. And we sometimes mistake that as loneliness. We mistake that as thinking that we want someone next to us. But if I were to ask you the question, and let me know in the comments below here, would you want what you just had back? Usually the answer is going to be no. However, we feel that loneliness. But that loneliness is really just an uncomfortable feeling because you feel like you're missing something. Now, it might not be the person. It might not be the man of your dreams. It might be the feeling of being validated again, especially if you're codependent, which is someone searching for validation outside of themselves. If you need someone else to create your happiness in your life, you're searching for that validation for yourself, that happiness outside of yourself. And after coming through a narcissistic toxic relationship, you've got to find that within before jumping into another relationship. But you're sitting here and you're feeling, I'm lonely, and I just want someone here again. And that's when the other narcissist is going to come in because they feel your energy. You're going to do things that you shouldn't be doing. You're going to deal you're going to do things that you shouldn't be doing, such as, what is the word I'm looking for? You're going to do things that you shouldn't be doing, such as accepting behavior that is not good for you and getting yourself right back into that relationship that caused a lot of pain. Maybe with someone different, maybe with the same person, because sometimes narcissists will go after you and keep going until they get what they want if they don't have other people on the side. So let's talk about the uncomfortable feelings, that loneliness feeling. That uncomfortable because you don't have someone there. You don't have that connection. You don't have that companion. Now let's talk about why we feel that way. Again, I just told you, a lot of it is because you're searching for that happiness outside of yourself. But let's talk about what happens to you in that toxic relationship and why it's so hard for us to go from one relationship to being single and staying there for the time for us to heal. In that relationship that you just had, it caused a lot of limited beliefs for yourself. They put you down. They said you were wrong. They said you're a bad person. They said you're controlling and manipulating. They called you everything that they probably are themselves, because that's what they do. So they've created all of these limited fears in your mind. The limited beliefs, and the limited beliefs really come from fear. So right now you're fearful of not finding that one person. You're fearful of never being loved again. You're fearful of being on your own and what that means. Maybe you've always had somebody with you because if you're codependent, you're going to be chasing after someone all of the time because that's what makes you happy. That's what gives you that adrenaline. That's what gives you that rush. And that's what makes you happy. So you might have always been going on to the next relation, on to the next relation, on to the next relationship. But I'm going to ask you to stop. Stop doing that because you're not giving yourself enough time to find the happiness within inside of yourself. And that's the most important part of how to overcome loneliness. I always tell the women that I work with that you will know that you're ready to date when you don't feel lonely. You feel like, I'd like to actually have someone to share my life with, but I'm not lonely. And that's a very powerful position to be in because you're not going to settle for the guys that are treating you like crap. You're going to stand tall and be like, you know what? My life is so good that the only person coming into it better add to it rather than deplete my energy and treat me like crap. So you've got to get to that place of loving yourself and also validating yourself and being your own happiness. And sometimes as codependents and empaths, that's really hard for us to do because we're always trying to help others. We're always taking on other people's responsibilities and their energy. But it's time for you to take on your own energy and to really dive into the limited beliefs that you've had, because I guarantee that this relationship that you just got out of, or whenever you got out of it, isn't what set those limited beliefs there. There's something, I went over this in the Divine Empress Club last night, where you will allow people to treat you as bad as you treat yourself. Once they start to treat you worse than you actually treat yourself, that's when you'll let them go. So if you don't physically abuse yourself and somebody came in and physically abused us, that's why a lot of times women will actually get rid of a man if they physically hit her, right? But what about the emotional abuse? What about the sexual abuse? Sometimes we treat ourselves up here worse than actually these narcissistic toxic people, right? The ones that drain our energy, the ones that tell us we're pieces of crap. Like, we actually in our mind believe that. And we have to figure out where that comes from. So in order to overcome this loneliness, it is about realizing that you are uncomfortable being alone. And that it doesn't mean that you have to go and run to get back into your comfort zone, right? We always want, that's the ego. We got to find another person. We got to find another person because it wants us back in our comfort zone. However, if you take that time for you and you really put all of it in and you heal yourself, and not just up here, because a lot of the times we know we're worthy of more. We know we love ourselves. However, it's the energy behind it. And that's where the energy healing comes in. So it's really important for you to take that time and make the space for you to heal so that you can move on to the healthy relationships. The problem with moving on right after a narcissistic toxic relationship is that you're going to attract another narcissist, another person that's going to treat you like crap. Maybe not right off the bat, because that's their love bombing stage. That's what they do. They make you feel like they're your soulmate and like everything's good. They listen to you. They ask questions so that they can use it against you. That's what they're going to do. And it's going to feel so good because you've been lonely. You've been uncomfortable. But now it's time to say, you know what? I'm uncomfortable. I'm not used to this. I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable being single. And that acceptance right there and that awareness of right there can change everything for you. Because if you feel like you're lonely and lonely and lonely, you're going to jump right back in because you want to fill that void. You feel like you need something. And it's true, you feel like you need something. You do, because you need that validation because you don't have it within. So you really want to accept and be aware that you're uncomfortable not being with someone. And when you can start to be aware of that, now you can start to sit with it. What do I mean by sit with it? It means deal with it and realize, change the patterns. Tell yourself these affirmations, positive affirmations. I am single and I am happy, even if it's not true. You have to fake it till you make it with these affirmations. Your brain does not know the difference between something that is false and something that is real. It just listens to what you tell it. So when you have these positive affirmations that say, I am single and I am happy, if you start to read those constantly every single day, you're going to start to feel that you are single and that you are happy. It's amazing how it works, but the power of the mind is absolutely amazing. So you want to, again, accept and be aware that you are uncomfortable and that this does not feel good to you at all because you're used to being in a relationship. The other reason that it's uncomfortable is that you're used to the ups and the downs and the dramas, right? Does he love me today? Does he not? Are we going to fight today? I don't know who I'm getting today, right? Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That is a pattern, and that's an addicting pattern. That adrenaline of when things are bad and you're fighting, or the adrenaline when making up and it's so great, you're going to miss that too. But that is a toxic behavior. That is a toxic pattern that you no longer want in your life. You want the person that's going to come home and you know they're going to be there for you and they're going to support you and encourage you just like you are to them. So you have to let go of those patterns. And when you're doing that and then you come to nothing, it's very uncomfortable because you don't know what to do. But you can change this by sitting in it. So you sit in it and you feel uncomfortable. until it doesn't feel uncomfortable anymore. I'll give you an example. If you put your hands together like this, and you put your thumb over your other thumb, just like that, whatever feels comfortable to you at first. Now I want you to switch it. That's going to feel uncomfortable to you. But if you keep it there long enough, it's going to start to feel comfortable. And that's exactly what happens with this loneliness after these toxic relationships. You don't deserve anything that you've been through. You are worth way more than that, and you deserve way more than that. And most of you, and let me know in the comments, you know it up here, but you don't feel it in here. So therefore, when you sit in that, uncomfortable about being lonely, not having anyone by your side, uncomfortable about not doing things with other people, with somebody else, uncomfortable of not eating with somebody else. There's a lot of things, especially if you lived with this person, that you have to get comfortable now doing by yourself. Instead of now filling that void, filling that uncomfortable feeling with someone else that, because you haven't healed yourself, is going to be at the same level as you, which is usually going to be that narcissistic person again. Instead of filling that void with this person who then is going to just bring you so much pain in the end, it's about feeling comfortable with being by yourself, being comfortable eating by yourself, being comfortable doing things you love, like you finally get to the time to do things that you love. But it's about feeling that uncomfortable feeling, and it's about sitting in it, because sitting in it and doing these things is the only thing that's going to make being by yourself comfortable. Give yourself time. Love yourself enough to not go through what you just went through again, because you don't have to. Once you start to feel comfortable with inside of yourself, once you start to love yourself and that self-worth, and again, just not up here, but also with your energy, you're going to release all that stuff. Once you start to dive back into your past and feel like, where does this limited belief come from where I actually accepted this for as long as I did? Why did I think this was okay? Once you dive into that and you start your healing journey, you are then going to start to realize like, wow, I don't have to believe that anymore. That was something I learned as a child and I don't think that way anymore. But you have to be aware of where it comes from. And once you give yourself that time, you're going to see that you start to validate yourself. You're going to be happy to wake up in the morning and go do whatever you want to do for the day. Maybe you got to go to work, but maybe after work you can go have a coffee with a friend, or you could go work out or read a book or go see a movie. And it doesn't have to be with anybody else. It could be with yourself, because you're comfortable being by yourself. You know that you can trust yourself and that you love yourself and that it's okay for you to be single. And you actually start to like it and love it. And then you won't settle for these guys who come in and be like, hey, babe, what you doing? Right? These bad boys. I did a video on YouTube, which I'll post right here, but about why we attract these bad boys. We attract them because we are not validating ourselves, because we don't feel our self-worth. And we're attracted to these guys that bring us up and put us down and bring us up and put us down, because that's what we're so used to. But it's time to break the cycle. It's time to stop the patterns of abusive relationships, mentally, emotionally, physically, sexually. It's time to break those patterns. And the only way that you break those patterns is by changing them. And the only way you change them is by being aware and sitting in the uncomfortable feelings around them. So I hope this helps you. That is how I have overcome my loneliness feeling. I'm not lonely anymore. I would love somebody to share my life to when the time is right. However, I'm not feeling that loneliness that I need someone. You never want to feel like you need someone. You need you. And when you know that, and when you have yourself, because we always have ourselves, we're never going to lose ourselves, right? That's when you validate yourself. That's when you gain your happiness. And then that's when you start to attract the right person in your life. Believe me, I don't attract narcissists anymore, because you know why? As soon as they come, they know they're not getting anywhere with me. They go right on their way. And that's the position that you want to be in. You don't want to be lonely. You don't want to say that you're lonely. You don't want to feel that loneliness feeling anymore, because that's when you're going to attract the narcissist. All right. I hope this helped you guys. Make sure you subscribe. Come follow me over on Facebook if you haven't already. And much love to you. Really, really, pay attention and be aware of that uncomfortable feeling and just sit in it, and then everything will change. Much love to all of you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.